So let us continue the discussion on a new topic, value of supply. This is the main thing as far as numerical portion of GST is concerned. Just like under Income Tax Act, my first task is to compute total income, or you can say taxable income. Without knowing how much is taxable income, I cannot compute the tax liability. Same is the case here. Without knowing how much is the value of supply, I cannot compute the GST liability. So value of supply is the topic which shows you how to compute that value on which GST will be charged. Only one section deals with this value, and that is section 15 of the CGST Act. So now let me tell you through my notepad that what is this section 15, how we will compute this value on which GST will be levied, what additional values will be added and what values will not be added to arrive at the exact value on which GST will be levied. So let me share with you the note. Section 15, value of supply. Now it's very simple. First point. Now section 15 subsection 1 says what? The value of supply is nothing but the transaction value. It's only one line section. Technically you can say the value of supply of goods or services or both is the transaction value. Transaction value, that's it. Only these two words is the value of supply. Now that is another question, that how will we arrive at this transaction value? But transaction value is the value of supply as per section 15 subsection 1. So the question arises, what is this transaction value? It is the price actually paid or will be paid. It is the price actually paid or payable, doesn't matter. Paid or payable, or you can say will be paid, doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you have to actually pay it right now. You might pay it in future also. So it is the price actually paid or payable for the supply. So whatever is supplied, against that supply, what price is actually paid or payable? If both of the following conditions are satisfied. But to check whether price actually paid or payable will be treated as transaction value or not, you must satisfy two conditions also. If both of the following first, the supplier and recipient, these must be unrelated person. Supplier and the recipient these must be unrelated. Why? Because suppose supplier is the father and recipient is the son. So these people are related person. It is possible that the product which is of actual cost of 10 lakh rupees to pay less GST, the father will show this as only 1 lakh rupees. That the recipient, my son, has given me only 1 lakh rupees. So the father might say that 1 lakh should be the transaction value. So X says no. The true price will only come when both the parties are having no relationship. So there is no scope of hiding something. So this is one thing. Second point. The price is the sole criterion for the supply. Or you can say sole consideration for the supply. That is more suitable word. Sole consideration for the supply. That when purchasing and selling is happening, then that should be settled only in terms of price. You cannot say that you purchase this product of 10 lakh rupees, give me only 1 lakh rupees. For 9 lakh rupees, I will do some work under you for 5 years. The next says no, then don't trust the price actually paid or payable. You have to take transaction value. It is not optional. It is compulsory that I have to apply section 15 subsection 1 and I have to take transaction value as the value of supply. Then the next question arises, what is this transaction value? It is nothing but the price actually paid or payable. But price actually paid or payable is only applicable when two conditions are satisfied, that the buyer and seller are unrelated people, and between them price is the only criteria to determine the value of supply. Now the next question arises, what do you mean by this relationship that we have already covered in the topic of registration? Who are related persons? That we have already covered. I hope you don't remember it, but that we have covered in section 25. Who are related persons? So two people are said to be related when one person controls another person, when both are officers of the same company, etc. When partners, employer, employee. So there are so many points if you remember. So two people are said to be related. So this topic you can read yourself from explanation to section 15. The same section's explanation will tell you that, because already I have covered it in detail, so I am not discussing it again. In the topic of registration, I have explained these with the help of example that these two people are related. So the related meaning is already defined. This is what my section 15 subsection 1 is. Next point now, a small example, very small example, and you can tell me the answer. Very small example. Mr. X is supplying something to Mr. Y. Mr. X is supplying something to Mr. Y for rupees 60,000, against which advance received is 6,000. X supplies something to Y for rupees 60,000, against which the advance received is rupees 6,000. The same X, the same person X, when supplies something to another person, the same product this person supplies for 65,000. In this case, can you tell me the value of supply? X supplies something to Y for rupees 60,000, against which Y has given X advance of rupees 6,000. But the same person, Mr. X, will supply this same product not to Y but to another person, the rate becomes 65,000. My question is, what is the value of supply? Can you tell me the answer? What is the value of supply? Anyone who can try to tell me the answer? Please wait for a second. Yeah, now can you tell me the answer? What will be the value of supply? 60,000 or 65,000? Hurry up, try to tell me. 60,000 or 65,000? 60,000 is the answer. Answer is 60,000. Because I am assuming that X and Y are unrelated. This is my first assumption. And between them, price is the only criteria. If this is the case, then it does not matter to another person at what rate X is supplying. Even if X is supplying the same product for rupees 1 lakh rupees, it does not matter. So long as between me and my supplier no relationship exists as per the provisions of the law, and price is the only criterion, then whatever price I actually pay will become the transaction value, and by default that becomes the value of supply. Please raise your hand if you got the point. If discussion till this point is clear, please raise your hand.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
Sir, X and Y must be related or unrelated?
Unrelated, what I have said. Related? What I have said was related or unrelated?
Sir, in the number 1 point, it is related, must be related. It is written must be related.
In the notes it is written must be related. Oh, so it is unrelated. No, you make this correction, it is unrelated. If it is related, then price doesn't make any sense. Must be unrelated. Make this correction unrelated. So I think the point is clear. Then next subsection. Now section 15, subsection 2. Now what items to be included in the value of supply? So under section 51, when I have determined the transaction value, it came out to be rupees 60,000 my example. This is not the exact value of supply. In this, I might have to add some items. So add what? So that I'm going to explain, that what items can be added or not can be, what items must be added. So my first item is section 15, subsection 2, clause A. Taxes levied under other laws. Under other laws, that also must be added in this rupees 60,000. For example, you are paying municipal tax. For example, when you cross this border, you have to pay municipal tax. For example, when you cross the border and your items are there, you have to pay some municipal tax or local tax on any supply. 100 rupees, for example. So the value of supply becomes 60,000 plus 100 rupees. So you have to taxes levied under other laws. What do you mean by other law? That same laws are what? Central tax, CGST, SGST tax, SGST, UTGST tax, UTGST, IGST Act, IGST, GST Compensation Act. So these are same laws. So other than these taxes, all other taxes must be added in the value of supply. This is one thing. Second point, what next item to be added? Section 15, subsection 2, clause B. What next item to be added? Amount liable to be paid by the supplier but actually paid by the recipient. This must be added. Amount liable, officially or legally it was liable to be paid by the supplier but paid actually by the recipient. This is also required to be added. Amount liable to be paid by the supplier but paid actually by the recipient. Now what is the best example? Suppose you have booked a marriage hall, banquet. You have booked a banquet for marriage purposes, so you are the recipient of service and the banquet owner is the supplier of service. But in the marriage, what happened? A person who was a flower vendor, who decorated with the help of flowers, that person was asking rupees 60,000 rupees from the supplier when the marriage was going on. From the supplier, this flower vendor was asking 60,000. But supplier whose banquet is this supplier said that no, I will not pay you 60,000. You have to come after 1 week. And this caused a serious fight between the flower vendor and supplier. But do you know in this fight who is suffering? You are suffering. Whose marriage is there? क्योंकि उनके फंक्शन में प्रॉब्लम हो गई, लड़ाई झगड़ा हो गया. Normally what happens is that fight between supplier and supplier's vendor is going on, but the function of recipient is being destroyed. So what the recipient has said, recipient says that you take 60,000 from me, don't fight. You take, recipient says to the vendor that you take 60,000 from me, don't fight and go away. Don't spoil the marriage function. And why this recipient has given 60? Because recipient will say to the supplier that, or in future, when recipient has to pay to the supplier balance money, he will deduct 60,000 rupees. But just to save the marriage function from unnecessary harassment, etc., amount is paid. This 60,000 will be added in the value of supply. This is the second point. Any amount which legally supplier is liable to pay, but actually paid by whom? Recipient. This amount will be added in the transaction value which you have just determined above. This is the second point which should be added. I hope it is clear. Third point which you should add. Amount incurred by the supplier before or at the time of now. So many times extra amount is also incurred by the supplier before or at the time of supply. The extra amount is, for example, packing charges, commission charges, brokerage, installation charges. So many other charges are also there which are incurred by the supplier. Of course, if these charges are incurred by the supplier, these will be collected by the supplier from the recipient. These charges also need to be added in the transaction value to determine the value of supply on which GST will be levied. Next point which you should add. Section 15, subsection 4. Sorry, but I have written this is not subsection 4. It is 15.2 clause C. It is 15.2 clause D. Delayed payment, late payment, etc. Interest, late fee, penalty for delayed payment. If you have made the payment late, for example, you are supposed to pay the amount by 21st Feb, and if you delay by 21st Feb, if you delay the payment and make the payment after 21st Feb, suppose 10,000 penalty will be charged. This 10,000 penalty is also included in the value of supply. This is 15 subsection 2 clause D is also to be added. And the last point, subsection 2 clause D. Subsidy which you have received, subsidies received from anyone other than the central and state government. That also need to be added. For example, a copy, or you can say a notebook, is available at ₹50. But Tata's NGO branch says that we will give you the subsidy to the supplier, that we will give you the subsidy of 10 rupees if you supply this to poor children. If supplied to poor children. So technically the supplier will charge only from the children, poor children, rupees 40 only. This is what the supplier will charge now. Supplier will charge only rupees 40 from the students. Now in this case, what will be the value of supply for this supplier? Not 40 rupees. Value of supply means this subsidy must be added. So don't write 40. Supplier has to pay the GST on rupees 50 also, because government says if we give you the subsidy, then we will give the subsidy based on treating every person equal. But if any NGO is giving subsidy, there may be some personal interest also. And when you show us less supply, ultimately government loses GST. Had I showed the supply 40, I would have collected the government would have collected the GST on 40 rupees. Now government will get the GST on 50 rupees. So the amount which will go to the government will be equally distributed. This is what the intention is. So that is why I say that if subsidies has been received from the government, then you can deduct it to compute value of supply. But if received from any other person, don't deduct it. Add it if you have deducted, and then you should determine the value of supply. So in my case, the value of supply becomes 50,000. This is what my section 15 subsection 2. Please raise your hand if this is clear. Next point. Now 15 subsection 2. What things are not to be included? That means if included, you have to deduct it. So next point. So third heading. What is not to be included? In the value of supply. So under this section, only discount is covered. That's it. Only one thing is to be included, discount. But there are two types of discounts. There are some discounts which you know when you are purchasing the goods. So this is first category. Discounts which are given at the time of supply. Because you know those, which are those discounts. If such discounts are recorded in your tax invoice, if these are written in your bills, you go and whenever you purchase medicines, you see yourself that when you purchase any medicine, and if the medicine shop owner is giving you discount, then whatever GST is charged, that is not on the total gross value, that is on the value after giving you the discount. You can see this yourself. So discounts which are given before or at the time of supply, if such discounts are recorded in the tax invoice. So those discounts which are given before or the time of supply, condition is that you must show this discount in your invoice. If 100 rupees is the cost and the supplier says that it is having 10% discount, and if he is willing to show 10 here, so this is the tax invoice. So in this case, the value of supply will be 90 rupees, not 100. This is first discount. Now there are some discounts which are not known when you are purchasing the goods, but something is known that in future it is possible that you can get it. So now I am discussing about that discount. That is also allowed, but those discounts which are given after the supply has taken place. In this case, the word used is maximum before or maximum at the time of. Next category covers not before or at the time of, it covers after. After this supply has taken place, if, but another condition is that you were aware about this discount. If such discount was established, it was available in the minds of both the supplier and the seller and the recipient, that if such discount was established under an agreement or contract, entered before or at the time of supply. This is one thing. Discounts which are recorded, I am talking about first category of discount. This is very simple discount. Any discount which is recorded in the invoice, it is of course deducted without any issue. There is no condition. The only condition is you must record it in the invoice. Don't say it verbally. The technical issue arises when the discounts are those which are not recorded in the invoice when you have purchased something, but these will be given later on, and you know today when you are purchasing the goods that I can claim it in future if I meet some conditions, etc. Those are also allowed as deduction to compute the GST. So discounts which are given after the supply has taken place, but if such discounts were pre-established at the time of supply or even before the supply. This is one thing. Further, not only this, you have to meet another condition also, because such discounts are not so easy to be deducted after discounts. Further, to get this discount deducted, you have to do some hard work. To get this discount deducted, it is also necessary that the ITC, input tax credit, as is attributable to such discount has been reversed by the recipient of supply. Now try to understand what I am saying. In this case, what is happening? X supplies something to Y, and the value taken was 90 rupees. And suppose on this, if 10%, if 20% is GST, for example, if 20% is GST, then Y has paid 18 rupees. And when Y has supplied this to another party, then Y must have claimed 18,000 as input tax credit. This is clear or not? X supplies something to Y for rupees 90 rupees after discount of 10%. On 90, 20% GST, so Y has paid to X 18 rupees. So this is Y's input tax. When Y has supplied it further, Y will not pay 18 again. Y will deduct 18,000. So technically Y has claimed the input tax credit. Have you understood this point or not? Please raise your hand. So Y has claimed, for example, 18 rupees as input tax credit. Have you understood this or not? Have you understood this or not? Please raise your hand. If you have understood, please raise your hand. 18 rupees as the tax paid by Y can be claimed by Y in future as input tax credit when Y will supply it further. So input tax credit is 18 rupees. All please raise your hand if the concept is clear, that yes, you know that yes, 18 rupees is the input tax credit in the hands of Y. Now in second case, what is happening? If you carefully see, in second case, what is happening? Discount is given after the supply has happened. So in the same example, what will happen in the second case, that you need to see. In second example, what is happening? X supplies something to Y, not for 90 rupees, for 100, because at the time of supply, discount was not recorded. If this supply has happened on 21st December for 100 rupees, so I have paid 20% tax. 200 rupees, sorry, 20 rupees I have paid the tax, and 20 will be claimed by Y as what? When Y supplied to any other person, Y will claim rupees 20 as ITC. Do you remember it or not? Is it correct or not? Please raise your hand. Is this example also correct? It's just like simple last concept, that in this case Y will claim rupees 20 as ITC. Why? Because there is no problem, because Y has paid 20 tax. But now what happens? Suppose some discount was allowed in this example, when we know that discount is given after the supply has taken place. Suppose after 3 months, suppose in March 2021, as a supplier, X gave a discount of 10%. As a supplier, suppose X gave a discount of 10% on this supply of 100 rupees. If this discount was pre-established, if this discount was pre-established, pre-established means, for example, on 21st December, there was a contract between X and Y, and X says to Y that today I am not giving you the discount, but if you will achieve some target, so X has given some target to the Y. If you will achieve some target, I will give you a discount of 10%. So this target was achieved by me in March 21. That is what I am saying, that though discount might be given later on, but originally it was pre-established. It was set conditions that if I achieve some target, discount will be given to me at 10%. Now in this case, what happens? When discount will be given to me, then it will not be 100 rupees. It makes this value 100 minus 10%, it makes this value 90,000, and if on 19,000 I compute 20% rate of tax, then 18 rupees is the tax which Y would have paid had this discount been recorded earlier. So it is the tax. But Y has actually paid how much? 20 rupees. Y has claimed 20 also as the ITC. So government says correct. Government says to Y that now you need correction. Since this discount was given later on, and it was pre-established at that time that it is possible that this discount would be available. In this case, if Y is willing to forego rupees to ITC, which Y has excess claimed, because in reality, Y should have paid 18, but if paid 20, and for extra 2 ITC he is willing to reverse it. Whatever ITC this Y has claimed, Y says no, I will reimburse this ITC to the government, I will only take 18 as ITC. Then government says no issue, this discount can also be deducted while determining the value of supply. This is the point. Discount which is given before at the time of supply, if such discount is recorded in the invoice, is very easy. But discount which you give after the supply, but provided, so there are two conditions. Condition 1, that this discount was established earlier, and condition 2, to get this discount, ITC as is attributable to such discount, whatever is the ITC to this discount, has been reversed by the recipient of supply. This is a little bit technical. That's it. If you have any problem to ask in this discount, you can ask. Otherwise, please raise your hand. Now, another technical point. And what is this another technical point? How will you record this discount? क्योंकि जो पुराना बिल इशू हो चुका वो दोबारा थोड़ा ना निकालेंगे हम गोडाउन से अपने. If this example is of December 21, you have to see the practical aspect. This example is of 21st December 21. At that time, my target was not complete. My target became complete on March 2021. So original invoice cannot be rectified. It will remain as it is. What I will do now? A supplier will issue a credit note. Do you remember the concept credit note and debit note? Supplier will issue a credit note of this discount of rupees. Discount was how much? 10% or 20? Discount was 10%. So 100 rupees original into 10%. Rather than old invoice to be checked again or make correction in the original invoice, supplier will issue a separate credit note of rupees 10. That's it. This is the provision. So this is the credit note as per section 34, if you remember. So this credit note is having same relevance as like tax invoice. This is one. Another point. When you say discount which are given after the supply, you are writing one more thing, that such discounts were established at the time of contract. But suppose it was sudden discount, on the spot discount. For example, on 21st December, there was no such proposal to achieve the target. But in March 21, what happens was, no such target, but employer himself, or not the employer, but let me give you an example, that suppose if in December 21, there was no such target to give the discount, even if you meet the target as a recipient, there was no such thing in the mind that discount will be available. But in March, I don't know what happens to the supplier. Supplier, without any issue, gave me flat 10% discount. Now in that case, what happens is that you will not issue credit note under section 34. If that is only sudden discount, then that is not for the purpose of the government of India. Then that is between you and the recipient. So you will issue a commercial credit note. That is only for the knowledge purpose, so that we don't forget that what has happened. So commercial credit note is different from the credit note of GST laws. Credit note of GST laws is nothing but just like tax invoice. It is having same thing. But commercial credit note doesn't take into consideration government into picture. Government has no role to play in commercial credit note. So when sudden discount is discount after the supply has been affected, government says we are not going to lose our GST. It is between you and the recipient. You can reduce your prices, but GST will remain same. So if discount is given after supply has been affected and this discount was not determined as per the original agreement, then this discount is having no use under GST laws. Between supplier and recipient, they can do anything, but that is beyond the purpose of the GST laws. If this is a sudden discount, then government keep rupees 20 as GST. Government is not going to reduce this by 2 rupees, which happened in the earlier case. Now government will keep rupees 20 as it is because this discount was not predetermined. So it is possible that now you are doing tax evasion. Now you are simply saying that take the discount. So it's your right. Government says no issue, you can give the discount, but don't ask us to give any benefit on this to the recipient. This is what the point is between credit note and commercial credit note. And this is what my section 12 subsection 3 is. Let me discuss a small example. A Limited supplies something to B Limited. List price excluding discounts and taxes 50,000. Tax is levied by municipal authority. Rupees 4,000. IGST payable on goods. So I'm assuming that A Limited has supplied me with goods only, not services. So municipal taxes on the sale is 10,440. Packing charges not included above. Not included above. 1,000. Supplier received a subsidy. Of rupees 2,000 from an NGO. Now this 50,000 is after this subsidy. The price of 50,000 is after considering the subsidy. Such questions can come in your exam. A Limited also offers 5% discount or 2% discount on list price. Determine the value of supply. Can you tell me the answer? How much will be the value of supply? Hurry up, try to help in giving me the answer, in determining the correct answer. Tell me the value of supply. So I should solve the question by which concept? The value of taxable supply. Yes.
Sir, is the answer 56,000?
Yeah, answer is 56,000. Value is to be determined in section 15 subsection 1. Why 1? Because A Limited and B Limited, I am assuming if nothing is mentioned, are related, no relationship, and price is the only criteria. If that is the case, then how much is the transaction value? Actual price 50,000. Add what? Will I add taxes paid by other authorities? Answer is yes. Will I add taxes payable on goods? No, I will not add taxes which are under GST laws. 10,440 will not be added. Will I pay any other charges? Yes, packing charges. Subsidy I cannot deduct it from the government, but now this subsidy is from the NGO, and since it has been included in 50, remove it. 2000 minus discount. A Limited offer 2% discount on list price. So if nothing is mentioned, I will assume that this discount is recorded at the time of supply in the invoice. So 2% discount on list price. List price is 50,000. 2% of 50,000 is 1,000. So in this case, the answer becomes this municipal tax is not 40,000, is 4,000. So the answer is how much? 50 plus 4 plus 10 plus 20. Why I have written 10? It is also 1,000.
Yes, sir.
Subsidies are, I don't know why I have marked extra 0. So 50 plus 4 plus 1 minus 2 and minus discount 1. Fifty plus 4 plus 1 minus 2 minus 1.
So, shouldn't we add the subsidy because it is already considered?
Yeah, yeah, I should add it. I don't know why I have deducted it. I should add it because it is after considering. After means subsidy will reduce my expense. So as a supplier, I have already deducted it. So I should add it. Not deducted. I should add it. So this is how much? 55, 57 minus 1,000. 56,000. On 56,000, GST will be paid. This is one point. Another example, very simple example. A supplier gave something to the recipient. So R is the recipient, S is the supplier. 4 rupees, 5 lakh. So 5 lakh is the price. This was having something. But Y Limited delayed the payment. And for this had to pay rupees 30,000 as penalty. He has to pay 30,000 as penalty because he has he did some default. On this product, the GST rate is 18%. 18%. Now, what is the transaction value as per section 15(1)? Price actually charged or paid 5 lakh. No addition, but interest for delay payment, that is also to be added. But I will not add 30,000. I will not add 30,000. Why? Because this 30,000 is the full and final payment penalty, and it includes GST also by default. If nothing is mentioned, you have to assume that whatever you have received is including GST as far as late penalty is concerned. No one is going to say that since I am giving you 30,000 as my late fee, take GST also. No one says that. Everyone says that 30,000 is final. So what I will do, I will divide it by 118 because 18% is GST, and I will multiply it by 100 rupees. Then it shows the value without GST. Two five four to 3.73, and this is the value of supply. Round figure I can say 525,420. is the value of supply. So what I wanted to show in this example is that whenever any interest etc. is given, assume this as including GST. Don't assume it as without GST, because no one is going to give you extra GST because of some late payment. This is one point. So section 15.1 transaction value, 15.2 and 15.3 assist the transaction value. What is section 15.4? Next point, section 15.4. How will you determine the value of supply when you cannot determine the transaction value? Value of supply determination if the transaction value is not determinable. The best option is to determine transaction value, but in case you cannot determine transaction value, then you have to take the help of section 15 subsection 4. It tells you that what will happen if transaction value is not ascertained, determinable, is not to be determined, is not possible to determine. When you cannot, when it is impossible to determine transaction value 15.1, only then you will come at the transaction. Only then you will come at section 15 subsection 4. Don't bypass section 15 subsection 1. First is transaction value. If not there, then you come at section 15 subsection 4. So that's all from my side. In the next lecture, we will start from section 15 subsection 4. That's all from my side. Thanks. Bye. मयंक नहीं है इसमें, कौन है? स्मृति या अनुष्ठा जो भी है, आप मुझे एक स्क्रीनशॉट सेंड कर दीजिए इसका.
Okay, sir.
आप सेंड कर दीजिए स्मृति. कुछ डाउट पूछना तो पूछ लीजिए, अदरवाइज वी कैन लीव दिस सेशन.